Hello students. So we had already seen in biological psychology the first part, that is the introduction. How what impact it has, because it's a branch of psychology, physiological psychology, or sometimes we call it as biological psychology. So the second unit, what we will be doing now, is the neurons. Hope you all would have studied about neurons, when you were in your earlier standards, about the nerve cells, all that. So here I'm just giving you a brief introduction about it, neurons, basically. So at birth, the human brain consists of an estimated 100 billion neurons. So unlike other cells, neurons don't reproduce or regenerate, because we always know that every nerve cell, every cell, it reproduces or it regenerates, but neurons is something which do not reproduce or it does not regenerate. So they are not replaced once they die. So this is the structure of a typical neuron, what you are seeing. So it has the dendrites, nucleus, cell body, all these things. So the neurons vary in size, shapes and structure depending on their role and location. Okay, so all neurons have three essential parts. There are a number of neurons, different types of neurons, but every neuron, definitely it will have these three essential parts. One is the cell body, the axon and the dendrite. Now the cell body is sometimes known as soma. Soma means body, we all know that. So the cell body is the neuron's core. The cell body carries genetic information, it maintains the neuron structure and provides energy to drive activities. Like other cell bodies, a neuron soma, that is the body of the neuron, contains a nucleus and specialized organelles. It is enclosed by a membrane which both protects it and allows it to interact with its immediate surroundings. So this is what. So this is basically, it is covered with a membrane so that it gets protected. The next part is the axon. The axon extends from the cell body and often gives rise to many smaller branches before ending at nerve terminals. An axon, basically it is a long tail-like structure which joins the cell body at a specialized junction called the axon hillock. Many axons are insulated with a fatty substance called myelin. So this is what we call it as the myelin sheath. It is covered with a membrane, so that is white in color, because that is why it is, we call that as myelinated. It is a myelin sheath. So the purpose of the myelin is to help axons to conduct an electrical signal. So we know the function of the neuron is basically conducting electrical signals from, transmitting electrical signals from one neuron to the other neuron. So every neuron generally has one main axon. The last part is the dendrites. So these are the fibrous roots that branch out from the cell body. Like antenna, dendrites receives and process signals from the axons of other neurons. Neurons can have more than one set of dendrites known as the dendritic trees. Why do we call it as trees? Because basically it comes out, it branches out like trees. So how many they have generally depends on their role. So it depends, one neuron has many dendrites depending upon the role they are going to function. For instance, the Purkinje cells are a special type of neuron that is found in the cerebellum. So these cells have highly developed dendritic trees which allow them to receive thousands of signals. So now we have seen the cell body, the dendrite and the axon. Now, should be knowing the function of neurons. So neurons send signals using action potentials. And action, now what is basically an action potential? It is a shift in the neuron's electric potential caused by the flow of ions in and out of the neural membrane. Now these action potentials can trigger both chemical and electrical synapses. Alright, so now what are these chemical synapses? In a chemical synapse, action potentials affect other neurons through a gap between neurons called a synapse. A synapse is a junction. It consists of a presynaptic ending, a synaptic cleft, and a postsynaptic ending. When you see the neuron, you will find these are the things which are there. When an action potential is generated, whenever there is an impulse, an electrical impulse, it is carried along the axon to a presynaptic ending. This triggers the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. Now these molecules cross the synaptic cleft and bind to receptors in the postsynaptic ending of a dendrite. These neurotransmitters can excite the postsynaptic neuron, causing it to generate an action potential of its own. Alternatively, they can inhibit the postsynaptic neuron, in which case it does not generate an action potential. Now, what are these electrical synapses? These can only excite. They occur when two neurons are connected through a gap junction. This gap is much smaller than a synapse and includes ion channels which facilitate the direct transmission of a positive electrical signal. As a result, electrical synapses are much faster than chemical synapses. However, the signal diminishes from one neuron to the next, making them less effective at transmitting. Now, these are all the cells of the central nervous system, types of neurons. As I have already said in the beginning, it comes in different structures, and the function also varies according to the structure and the genetic makeup of the neuron. So neuron varies in structure, function, and genetic makeup. Given the sheer number of neurons, there are thousands of different types, much like there are thousands of species of living organisms on Earth. So there are n number of neurons are there. In terms of its function, scientists classify neurons into three broadly types. One is the sensory, the other one is the motor neuron, and the third one is the interneuron. So this is what you could see the diagram over here: the sensory neuron, the motor neuron, and the interneurons. Now sensory neurons, as we all know, from the name itself we know, it helps you to sense, that is taste, smell, hear, see, feel things around you. All these things are related to the sensation. Sensory neurons are triggered by physical and chemical inputs from your environment. So, generally we receive the sensation through our sense organs from the environment in terms of sound, touch, heat, and light. These are all the basic physical inputs. So, smell and taste is something, the chemical inputs. For example, when you step out on hot sand, it activates sensory neurons in the soles of our legs. Alright, so neurons, this sends a message to our brain which makes you aware of that particular sensation. So motor neurons, the second type is, it plays a role in movement. The name itself implies motor means it is movement. Alright, the sensory means it receives the information through the sense organs, and it passes it on to the motor for the movement. So in movement, including voluntary and involuntary movements, these neurons allow the brain and spinal cord to communicate with muscles. The function basically, when we talk about movement itself, it moves on. That means it is trying to communicate with muscles, organs, and glands all over the body. So there are two types of motor neurons. One is the lower and the other one is the upper. Now, when we talk about the lower motor neurons, these carry signals from the spinal cord to the smooth muscles and the skeletal muscles. Alright? two types of muscles are there. One is the smooth muscles and the skeletal muscles. So it carries, the neurons carry the signals from the spinal cord to these muscles. Now the upper motor neurons, these carry signals between your brain and the spinal cord. This is what the function between the lower and the upper motor neurons. So for instance, when you eat, lower motor neurons in your spinal cord send signals to the smooth muscles in your esophagus, stomach and intestines. So these muscles, it basically allows food to move through your digestive tract. Now the third part is the interneurons. These are neural intermediaries found in your brain and spinal cord. They are the most common type of neurons. So these pass signals from sensory neurons and other interneurons to motor neurons and other interneurons. Alright? Often they form complex circuits that help you to react to external stimuli. For instance, when you touch something hot, sensory neurons in your fingertips, alright? This sends a signal to the interneurons in your spinal cord. Some interneurons pass the signal on to motor neurons in your hand. So as we know, motor neurons is to do with the movement. The moment the signal is passed, immediately what you do is you try to move your hand away, okay, from that heat. Now other interneurons send a signal to the pain center in your brain and you start experiencing pain whenever you absorb heat or something like that. So the last part, you have the neurotransmitters, because this is what that plays a major role. So these are all an essential part of our everyday functioning. While it is not known exactly how many neurotransmitters exist, nobody knows about it. But scientists have identified more than 100 of these chemical messengers. But we are more familiar with 4 or 5 neurotransmitters because these are the most commonly used. Alright, secreted all that. The following are just a few of the major neurotransmitters, their known effects and disorders they are associated with. This is what I'm trying to tell you now. Now one is the acetylcholine. So this is something associated with memory, muscle contractions and learning. So whenever there is a lack of acetylcholine in the brain, it is associated with Alzheimer's disease. Okay, this is what acetylcholine. Now the next one is the endomorphins, which is associated with emotions, when you experience feelings, all that, and pain perception. Now whenever you experience this, the body releases endomorphins in response to fear or trauma. These chemical messengers are similar to opiate, morphine, but these are significantly stronger. The third one is the dopamine. This is associated with thought and pleasurable feelings. So Parkinson's disease is one illness which is associated with deficit in dopamine. Whenever there is lack of dopamine, one experiences Parkinson's symptoms. So doctors, they generally prescribe medications that can increase the dopamine activity in the brain. So one category is dopamine agonists, which mimic the effects of dopamine. Another type of agent is levodopa, which is converted into dopamine in the brain. So they each carry their own related benefits and side effects. We all know everything has its own benefits and side effects, advantages, disadvantages like that. So researchers also have found strong links between schizophrenia and excessive amounts of dopamine in certain parts of the brain. Okay? So with that, we have just given you the gist of the structure of the neuron, where you have the cell body, the dendrite, the nucleus, all that, and then the different types of neurons, what we have seen, the sensory, motor, and the interneurons, and finally the chemicals about the neurotransmitters, where there is an excess or there is an undersecretion, what are the disorders that are exhibited by an individual. Alright, thank you very much. Any questions you could ask me.